Okay, so this is another question um from one of my videos. It's more like a comment anyway. Okay, meanwhile, before I start, remember I said if you want a free video response to your question, just prepare all your queries or questions, post it as a comment in any of my videos on YouTube channel, my post on YouTube channel. Then later on, it could take a day, two or more, depending. I'll go to the questions or the comments there. Anyone I find that is worth to respond to, I will respond to. I'll do a free video response to that. If you post something negative and annoying, or you are just throwing, I will not just ignore. Sometimes I can block you completely from the channel. So you need to understand this channel is for serious minded ones. Okay, so now it reads, why driving my Peugeot 406 without the AC turned on, it doesn't overheat, but when I turn the AC on while driving, the temperature gauge begin to increase from 90. What could be the possible cause? Okay, number one, I don't know the current state of your engine cooling system. I'm just saying factors that can contribute to this, but then how good is your engine cooling system? Is your fan still factory fixed, or as in factory connected? In other words, how does your cooling fan behaves when you start the vehicle? Does it start spinning immediately when you switch on what's it called, the ignition? Or does the fan start spinning immediately when you start the car? Or the fan only comes up uh, maybe at 90 degrees Celsius, or when you switch on AC? So all these things matters, because if there's a way you can connect the fan, if you bypass it, make it a non-factory connection, and the speed is not enough, you get a point when the the engine will actually need a better cooling with the AC running, and in that case the EC is supposed to increase the speed of the fan. So if you bypass it and the speed of that fan at that time is no longer high enough to take heat from the engine off, yeah, it will start overheating. So all these things matters. Of course, the thermostat thing and the rest. So um that's by the way for the cooling system. So I can't tell you in that case what could be the cause, because right now I don't know your cooling system condition. um Other things that can cause this thing is like water pump can cause it, but unlikely. I'm not ruling it out, because water pump usually, once it's weak, whether AC or no AC, the engine will overheat. Once you accelerate the vehicle, once you accelerate the vehicle, in fact, under acceleration, it starts shooting up. If you reduce your acceleration, the temperature will drop a little. So that's how water pump usually behaves. Once it's weak, one of the blades inside it is bad, or it's completely leak. That's one of the symptoms of water pump. How to know when your water pump is the cause of overheating. Cylinder head gasket can do that too if it's weak or partially burnt. When you add load, AC loads to it, the engine temperature tends to increase. More load added to the engine. So in that case, the gasket will no longer be able to do its work. So your engine may overheat. Then your radiator as well. When I mean radiator, I'm not just talking about even the condenser. Not just because, okay, let's just talk about the condenser, not necessarily the radiator. If your condenser is blocked externally, remember in Peugeot 406, the cooling fan is mounted in front of the condenser. So in other words, it pushes air through the condenser to the radiator, then to the engine. So if the condenser or radiator or both of them are blocked, those fins, those grills on the radiator that air are supposed to pass through. So if they are partially blocked or blocked completely, it reduces the airflow coming in from outside into the engine bay. Also reduces the air that the cooling fan tries to push through the condenser and the radiator. So in other words, it won't get amount of air to do the cooling. We call it cooling, but it's actually what it does is just to push air through to take heat off the radiator and then blow it on the engine. And also takes, as it's blowing on the engine, the air will also be taking heat off the engine. So it's not just the radiator that air that enter inside the engine act on. Even the air that passes the radiator, it also flows on the engine and helps to reduce or take the heat off, because engine is emitting heat, so it will be blowing on it and heat will be going, reducing the temperature as well. So if any of them is blocked inside or on the external on the grills, yeah, it will also reduce the airflow, and the engine might overheat when you add loads to it, like the AC. The radiator itself, if it's blocked inside, it means some of the those holes that coolant supposed to pass through will no longer flow very well, or may even be blocked. So it may be just very few that will be passing fluid. In that case, it won't be able to uh, push off the heat from those coolant, the few lines that are still passing coolant. So it won't be able to push off that heat well, and your temperature or coolant temperature will go extremely high. Like I said, once you switch on AC, you are adding load to the engine, so engine tries to work harder, meaning it produces more heat at that time. So could be your radiator, means you have to remove, or is it that your radiator has been patched or worked on and it's so bad now that you have to replace it. All these things can cause it. I wouldn't bother with thermostat in this case, because thermostat will overheat whether AC is on or not once it's completely blocked or closed and it's no longer open. So if it's the cause, it will overheat whether the AC is on or not on. So I don't know how like I said, your electrical connection to your fan is, and the entire vehicle. All these things have to be looked at to know where it's coming from. But at least now you have idea. There could be another fault that is causing this that I didn't mention. But then, like I said, if I'm not seeing the car, I can't tell what it is. I may have idea, but I need to see the car if I were to do the diagnosis to know exactly the way it is. Because like I always say, once it comes to Nigerian used vehicles, specifically Peugeot vehicles, I don't assume that everything is still factory, and I will give advice based on that, because honestly it can be an eyesore when you see vehicles, see the way people treat it, and do all kinds of things on it. So there's no way you give solution or give advice without seeing the car, knowing that the advice you are giving will work, because your advice you are giving is based on how the car is supposed to be in terms of the connections, the factory setup. Not knowing that the factory setup is no longer there. So you have to look at it physically, see the car and know, okay, this is the problem. So even if you still the person wants to work with the factory setup, which in this case I don't get involved, but at least this, you have to do it in a different way for it to work, not the way the manufacturer set up the car. So if you try to do it the way manufacturer set up the car to diagnose it or repair it, that it won't work, because the system has been changed. So me, I prefer take it back to the factory setup before you even talk about the actual diagnosis. When I see cars that people have modified, see, I modify cars too. So I can diagnosing even when I modify car, I try to do it to still be like factory setup. In other words, as if this how it came from new. So it still be easily diagnosed as if it was factory. But when I hear people just do it completely off the track, so we will know. I don't know. And then the truth is, if you actually uh, into cars and you understand vehicle systems, if you modify a car, you realize that you don't even need to come online to ask for this kind of because you already understand the system. Remember, you did the modification, so you already know it to diagnose it. You have to do diagnosis differently. So once I see people asking for this kind of help, it means that even if the car was modified, there's no point even trying to help her because you can as well put it back to factory. There's no so that tomorrow you won't have to come back and start asking for this thing. Put it back to factory, use it. If you want more power in a car, then buy one with more power, rather than try to modify. But the reverse is usually the case in Nigeria anyway. They buy one with more power, then convert it in a very rude, crude manner or wrongly to reduce the power because of so-called high fuel consumption, and then realize they messed up the entire vehicle and then sell it off as scrap most times. Or most times high price and to people who don't know jack shit and they fell victim to that. Not necessarily victim, I always say they are voluntary volunteers. Because you have a choice, you have that chance not to buy a vehicle you have no zero understanding of without an expert evaluating the car and advise you on what to do. But most people prefer to bypass that because to them it seems stupid to pay somebody that understands something to help you get something that worth it, only for you to now come back and start you know, having begging for. I don't want to go into it now. So I hope you understand this and have someone to look at it to know what is causing it. I hope it's not even the AC system that is even causing this. That's another thing. For example, if what for from my understanding of Peugeot 406 system with the AC, especially the D9, the engine ECU controls the fan, right? So when you bypass the AC, the AC connection to come up without the normal factory triggering, like on the AC vent. Some people they will bypass it, so it will no longer power from that AC button. Instead, it power from the blower. So when you do that, if you switch on AC, and if your fan is still factory, if you switch on AC, your compressor will come up, but your fan will not work because the engine EC is supposed to see, like I said, it's supposed to trigger the fan on, and the AC ECU, all those things they work together with the engine ECU. So when you press that AC button, the engine ECU will know you power the compressor. So in that case, it will trigger the fan and control it with a fan speed depending on the engine temperature and the rest, or what you believe the engine temperature or the fan speed is good at that time. Whatever speed the fan engine needs, that whatever fan speed the engine need at that time to maintain the temperature well. So when you did that bypass, which majority of us Nigerian use overseas I mean, like I say, you need to go into, if you are doing this buying of cars for people or inspecting a car, you see a lot of things. So if that is the case, it means your AC could also be the cause of this overheating. Maybe your fan doesn't spin when you power the AC, so you need to go and reverse the AC, let the connection to work from the engine ECU Because once you bypass that powering, even though you press the AC button, the engine EC will not see it because you've bypassed it. So it won't trigger the fan. And so the car will overheat because of the load you've added on it without the additional air coming into the engine bay to cool the engine with that load. So those are the things you need to know. All right, that's all for this video.